Hello everybody. Right, we have been recording the promo videos for the Kickstarter for Waggle Dance here in GMS Studios. And I thought it would be a good idea, since I'm not really going to get the chance to have you guys sitting at the same table at the same time and give you a barrage of questions. So I thought, right, let's do it the proper way. Mike and Henry, you are the two human beings behind this project. That it's going to make incredible. I mean, it's going to be such a huge amount of money. Seriously, this is me predicting the future. I can do that. But before we go into how much money the game is going to make, Mike, tell me a little bit about how the game started. How long ago did you begin the design of Waggle Dance?
I guess in inception, maybe about 4 years ago. I was interested in doing a worker placement style game, and there were that sort of game. There was quite a few out on the market already, but a lot of them felt quite claustrophobic, quite limited. You would people would take a few actions, and then everything would be blocked off, and you often couldn't do what you wanted to do, and you'd often have to change your plans, change your strategy, and those sorts of games can be quite frustrating, and I could see that playing them with some of my friends. So the goal really was to come up with a worker placement style game which didn't limit your options really quickly, that still left a lot of choice and let you feel like you were still in control of your strategy.
From that point of view, though, did you go into the design of Waggle Dance thinking, I want my game to do this, or I want my game not to do this?
A bit of both, really. You know, to seek choice and to avoid that sort of frustration at the same time.
Now, I remember we played your game, play tested it at Game Force.
Yep.
At least a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Quite some time ago, and the game has changed quite a lot, because at the time you wanted to have some player boards that are no longer in the game. What's been the greatest change since you created the game, the initial idea, until now that is going into production?
I guess mechanically, probably one of the biggest changes was in one of its early stages. It was about one of the mechanics is when you're making newbies or you're making honey, you need a pair of values. Same values on 2 dice. Originally that was sevens. It was you were rolling and looking for sevens and putting sevens together for those actions. But it became quite clear that pairs were need to establish better parity between the values you were rolling on your dice. That's probably the biggest change that was made.
And in terms of play testing, how much has it gone through? Because having the game 4 years in development, that must have been played quite a few times.
Yeah, it's many games with many different groups. I've deliberately gone out and sought other people to try it with. I've gone to UK playtest with Rob Harris quite a bit. Went to Game Force and there's different shows and conventions, different groups of friends that I know, and we'll be opening up some playtest with the campaign as well. So
absolutely. Yeah.
So it's the potential for it still to evolve a bit more.
And where would you like the game to go?
Into people's homes, just to be played. I think it's quite a pure game. It's quite it's simple in its design, but very deep in the way it can be played. I've seen a lot of people think a lot about their turns and watch very carefully about what people have rolled, and people get very engaged with it and are very keen to play it again. And I like that. I mean, ultimately, I love games, and I love playing games, and I'd love people to share this game with me and their friends.
Henry, why did you decide to back this game and actually put your weight behind it? Because it's all very good and proper to talk to the enthusiastic designer who, hey, my game is great, it's lovely, and I love it, it's so cool. But then you have the business side of it, which is what, at the end of the day, is going to bring some food to your table. What made you decide, this is worth it?
Mike and I have known each other for, about 5 years. We kind of met at a games group up in Derby, and have stayed in contact ever since then. And probably when I kind of announced last year everything that was happening with Grublin and with Cornish Smuggler and this kind of side of things, Mike and I kind of kept on kind of catching each other and being kind of just missing each other in terms of just having that conversation. So when we came to Essen, and I suddenly realised I had like a bit of breathing room from Cornish Smuggler, because all the design kind of aspects and everything was done there, and suddenly started receiving all these game submissions from people, which was something I hadn't really considered beforehand. At the same time, Mike and I finally got to talk to each other, and he kind of showed Waggle Dance and said, look, this is kind of what I've got and this is kind of what I'd like to do. And I went, yeah, that's fine, that's great, because I was really busy. And then kind of took it back and that kind of thing. And then we had, ever since kind of from Essen onwards, we were kind of testing through with our group and kind of seeing what we liked and what we didn't like. And when Waggle Dance hit the table, I was really kind of taken aback with loads of things about it, actually. So it seemed ridiculous to have a game with so many dice in it, like insanely ridiculous. Just like, what is this about? Seriously? It's I like the fact it came in a really small box. So Mike gave it to me in one of the Royal Mail kind of standard size boxes, and I was like, this is a really small box for a game. And the more I thought about it, the more it kind of seemed like, well, actually, this is something which could happen. The thing that really drew me to it, I think, was the fact that it's had this ability to be completely language independent. And after Cornish Smuggler, and realising kind of the kind of like wider world market, and really wanting to engage in that in a way which was kind of different to the way other people were doing it, but still at the same time kind of respecting the values that we had as a company. So having this ability to make it really language independent, but at the same time, the small box thing and the huge dice thing, and just the idea of creating something which wasn't huge because it wasn't kind of a really big box because it would kind of make more money, but creating something which is the right size box for the right size game, and just beautiful and really accessible, and that's, I think, why I went for Waggle Dance.
Okay. Mike, when you spoke with Henry for the first time about this, did you have in your mind the product that you're going to end up with?
What, in terms of the
production?
Production,
yes.
Yeah, not really. No, it's quite a tactile game with the number of different pieces it has, and I knew it would be key to keep that sense, that tactile element. But in terms of the visuals, like the artwork, I didn't really have anything in my head. I'm not an artist. I can't draw for toffee. So no, I'm just I'm usually often pleasantly surprised by what comes out. I know a few artists, different friends that do work in different fields, comics and so on. It's amazing. I'm very jealous of those kinds of people.
But from your point of view, what did you have in mind when you saw Waggle Dance for the first time in terms of production? Because the one thing that has to be said about Cornish Smuggler is that visually it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, thank you.
Stunning. So what do you think when you played Waggle Dance for the first time and thought, okay, I can make a game out of this one and sell it?
Yeah, okay. So from the art direction side, I have to say right now that the art director for Waggle Dance is an amazing girl called Rachel Dobbs, who's been kind of handling all these kind of things. So I've been, my job is very much in terms of handling the production, in terms of handling the marketing and making the whole thing pay, and making it realistic so it doesn't fall on its face at some point because we run out of money. That would be terrible. And after Cornish Smuggler, I really wanted to kind of delegate as much of these things as possible. And the art direction, I'm not an artist either, but I kind of know how, I have enough of a language to be able to talk about it properly. But I knew that I wanted to get someone else. So that's when Rachel came on board, and that's when we kind of started to find artists and found Mateus, who's made the beautiful cover illustration. In terms of kind of how I saw it, there's lots of ways I didn't see it. So I didn't want to see something with cutesy cartoon bees at all.
Right.
That had to go, couldn't have that. I saw something in terms of how the how the cards worked, I saw it in the way of all the pictures being the actions that people did to try and make, so rather than having like a big rules book which you have to kind of read through, or even having like a set of symbols which, like another language, you have to learn to play the game. We don't have any of that. We wanted to have the what you do is what the cards are, so it kind of shows you that. So all the testing side that we've been doing as Grublin has been about getting those icons as intuitive and accessible as possible, so that when you see it, you go, oh yeah, that's what I do. But not just for a certain age of gamer or a certain level of gamer or anything like that, for everyone. And that's really what I wanted from Waggle Dance.
You said earlier about having the cutesy sort of style. Yes. Why didn't you want to go that way?
In our art briefs that we were kind of sending out, we wrote, these kind of bees make us feel sick. Because there's a danger with kind of games, I think with bee games which have kind of cutesy bees, because they've been made cutesy for a reason. So the reason for this is because they've been made to appeal to kids or to families or anything like that. Board games aren't in that place anymore. They're really not. They're not about things you give to kids for them to play. They're about how people interact. And so I think we need to be looking at them more intelligently. And that's what I wanted to do with this. So the reason, if we put cutesy cartoon bees on there, then people would instantly think cutesy cartoon bee game. That's no good. We're not going to sell any like that. And it doesn't talk about what the game actually is, which is a smart, intelligent game which is different and offers something for every level of gamer, I think. I actually honestly do. And yeah, I would say that's why.
Okay. Like, when did you want to go? Do you think that the game was going to be a family cutesy sort of game, or did you expect it was going to become something?
No, I mean, you asked me earlier about my expectations,
Yeah.
but no, I was agreed with Henry in our very first conversation. The one thing I wasn't keen on either was for it to be overly cutesy, because as soon as you start playing it, you realise it's not that sort of game. It's a quite deep, sort of Euro-ish type game, and we want to make sure that we don't alienate that sort of audience. We want to appeal to that sort of audience.
It's got this lush pick-upness, and it's like what you were saying beforehand. It's really allegorical, and it works on a number of levels. It works on a number of levels. So it's a worker placement dice game, but this is a worker placement dice game where your optimum strategy isn't to get more workers. That doesn't work. People will beat you every time if you do that, and you'll be like, well, what's going on? It's a worker placement game. I just get more workers. It's got more going on, basically. It's more technical, and it's more intelligent, and I think that's what our audience is. And so why not make games for that?
No, that's definitely fair enough. In terms of the competitive aspect of the game, is this a stab somebody else in the back sort of game, or is it more build an engine, work with that engine to your strategy, to your advantage, without having to screw the other players up?
I think this game is about efficiency.
Okay.
So you are rewarded for being efficient. You're not punished if you're inefficient. It's just the other players are by nature opportunistic, so other players will capitalise on things that you don't necessarily take advantage of. This has a really nice synergy with how nature works. Nature works like this. It has to be efficient to survive. You don't see kind of inefficient systems in place, because the whole kind of Darwinism kind of side of it, that's the whole point of evolution. That's what it is. So I would say it's not a game which stabs people in the back. It's not a brutal game at all. It doesn't punish people, but at the same time, it has use of purity earlier, and this kind of really resonates with the math side for me. I mean, in math, something which is beautiful, a beautiful equation is one which is says exactly what it a proof which kind of says exactly what it needs to, but it does it in kind of the simplest, kind of most elegant way possible. And I think that's where this game is at.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that message has sort of come out through playtesting as well, because in the earlier phases there were some screw over type cards, some things in the game that were more sort of combative, but it didn't feel right. The game had its own voice. It was telling me that those sorts of things aren't really appropriate for the type of theme, the type of game that it is.
Let's talk a little bit, just for a couple of minutes, about the theme itself. Could this game be about anything else other than bees?
Not Not easily. I mean, yeah, you could. There are things you could tweak, perhaps, but the theme really came out of the design of the mechanics. You had I very on I decided that you were going to use d6s, and it was, well, what does a d6 represent? It could be an ant, any six-legged insect. But when I was looking at the hexagons and things as well, it felt very naturally that the right thing for it to be was bees. And what do bees do? Bees make honey. And yeah, so six-sided dice, six-sided objects, 6 actions on the table, 6 flowers on the table. It all very naturally sort of came out.
And from your point of view, in terms of the production, how or what do you have in mind to actually keep with the beekeeping sort of ethos?
Yeah, okay. So this is an interesting question. I'm going to stop thinking about zombies, which is what just kind of jumped in there, because I suppose it's for 2007. So this is an interesting question because we are constrained by real-world issues. So the obvious one about this is where production is happening, which I think is probably going to have to be in China. It might not. I'm working really, really hard to get it in Europe, but I think it's going to have to be China. Just because we have real world issues that we have to deal with. So to be able to offer this game at a price which is accurate for what the game box size is doing, which is affordable, which is competitive, at the same time being able to do it in a way which doesn't introduce risk into the system. So as a Kickstarter, we are beholden to our backers. We can't do this without the backers. So we need to do everything that we can to make sure that we deliver on time. So this game has to be out for Christmas because that's what I want everyone to be able to look at this and say, yeah, this would be a great Christmas present for this price, and it would be a great present for everyone knows someone who would be interested in this, I think. So there's that kind of side to deal with. I mean, the materials that we're using, I think we're still a few steps away from an organic board game. I don't think we need that right now. And is that really kind of what bees are about? So from a components point of view, we can make sure that everything's made as ethically as possible. Everything's made as safely as possible. That's quite important. And we're representing everyone who's involved in the game and also the backers. I would say that's kind of the biggest ethical thing that we can do. Actually kind of sticking with the Kickstarter ethos and delivering on what we're promising. And I think we definitely can do that. Because otherwise, what are we doing, basically?
Well, and you have already done it. I mean, Cornish Smuggler, I know that you went through a few wake-up calls in the way of how the production went and how you had to sort out quite a few issues with Cornish Smuggler. What was the biggest lesson you learned with the production of Cornish Smuggler that you can apply now to Waggle Dance?
So I think the biggest thing that affected Cornish Smuggler was our manufacturer being less than open about what was actually happening at their side, which really almost kind of like stopped everything. But then that was able to be fixed. The game weight was more than it was supposed to be. That was an issue. And we ate into our contingency a lot more, really a lot more than we were expecting. So that became very close. I think kind of the biggest thing is communication and the way you communicate with people and improving on that. So I don't mean from like a professionalism point of view, and I don't mean from a frequency point of view. I'm not really even quite sure how to define it, but I think all the planning stuff that happened for Cornish Smuggler, ace, not a problem. Reapply to this, planned as thoroughly and as completely as possible. But I think that's probably the biggest thing. In a really super nebulous, not even answering your question way, I'm really sorry about this. I'll try and kind of write this down and actually make it a little bit more concrete. But yeah, I think kind of improving the way that we're communicating with people is what we've been doing over the last year. We've learned a lot from Cornish Smuggler, but we've been taking notes all along the way. And I really feel that that's been applied to this game.
Perfect. Just to wrap it up a little bit, Mike, from your point of view as the designer of the game, let's assume that this game has funded, and you have now space and money for stretch goals. What would you like to happen now that you have that money available?
Well, that's a good question.
Of course it is.
There are some things. There are some extra mechanical things that I've sort of held back to use as an expansion, which we have the potential to do. I'm actually just talking to Henry about potentially a sequel game that uses a lot of the same mechanics, but maybe a slightly different theme. Maybe that could cross over and they could be played together. There's still lots of things we could do.
And I really like the idea of having some sort of the zombie version of Waggle Dance, the Varroa Might expansion. I think that would be absolutely awesome.
We've not talked about zombies, but you never
Zombie
know.
bees.
You never know.
No, we're not talking about zombies. It's not going to happen.
Zombies are always fashionable.
Make
always
yourself.
fashionable.
And Harry, from your point of view, where do you think Waggle Dance could go in say 5 years? Where would you like to see the game?
Okay. I'd like to see... I think what we have here is something which is very, very close, if not actually, the perfect gateway game. And I really, really honestly believe that. And I'd like that to... In the way it's seen and the way that people perceive it, I think that's where I'd like it to be. I think we've got something which is going to hit the table a lot. It's not going to be a problem to get on there. People are going to want to play it. It looks lush. It's got a really, really, really good offering for everything that you're getting from the game. And yeah, I think that's what I'd like to see from in 5 years' time. Just the way people see it. Obviously it's kind of still available. We've had more print runs. And I think I'd like that to be well regarded. I think that's it.
There you go. If that didn't give you all the info you need in order to actually bag and buy this game for your friends for Christmas, birthdays, farewell parties for people at work, when you're going on holiday, a game to just leave behind in the hotel so other people can play the game. If that doesn't give you all the reasons to need to buy this game several times, watch the video again so you can get all the reasons once again. Thank you very much for watching, and guys, thank you very much. I'm not going to wish you good luck with this because I know it's going to do amazingly well, and I cannot wait to see it on the shelves. It will be absolutely amazing. And yeah, great idea with the zombie bees. I'm looking forward to the expansion.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers, thank you very much.